Okay. Okay, so let's start. First of all, I would like to thank you all for being here to attend the first session of this seminar series, New Work on Roman Religion. This seminar is intended to give insight and to present new work in the field of Roman religion. And to do so together with Claudia Beltrao, I've asked colleagues and friends to share their work, both recently completed and in progress, dealing with different aspects of Roman religion. After each session, there will be plenty of time, up to half an hour, for a debate where everyone will be free to put questions and add comments. The seminar is multilingual, so everyone is free to participate using his or her language. I've chosen English this time, but so you can put questions in Spanish, in Portuguese, in Italian, as you want. My gratitude goes first and foremost to the driving force of this seminar, Claudia Beltrao, whose help, collaboration, and enthusiasm were invaluable to organize this seminar series and to put together such a wonderful program. Many thanks also to Ismail Wolf, who gave us a great help in organizing the seminar series. Thank you very much. Finally, many thanks to all the colleagues and friends who accepted to be part of this seminar series. Claudio Beltrao again, Maria Emilia Cairo, Guillermina Bogdan, Paolo Garofalo, Federico Sant'Angelo, Erika Cristiane Silva, and Jörg Rupke. Not everyone is here today. I bring the greetings from Federico Sant'Angelo, who has another lecture, unfortunately, today. But we are all together to be part of this wonderful program. So all these names, all these wonderful scholars mean, this means that if you won't like my presentation, there will be many other interesting others to come. Jokes aside, I'm very pleased and honored to be the first to lecture. Before starting, maybe Claudia would like to add a few words.
Thank you, Giorgio. I would like to say that I am delighted to welcome you all to the New Work of Roman Religion seminar, presenting this first lecture of our series. And the title is Diversis exit uterque partibus, the running of the Luperci and Rome's sacred landscape, to be delivered by Giorgio Ferri. Giorgio is currently developing the research project Ritmo, the place-make function of ritual movement in Roman religion, with the support of a Marie Sklodowska-Curie individual fellowship. It is a global fellowship at the Sapienza Università di Roma, in Italy, at the Universidade Federal do Estado do Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil, and at the Unité Mixte de Recherche Anima, Paris, France. Apart from this international fellowship, he is research assistant in history of religions at the Sapienza, and also a fellow of the research project, the French research project, Petite Divinité, Réflexion sur la hiérarchie divine dans les systèmes polythéistes, directed by Professor Francesca Crescendi, and a member of the International Council of Museums. Giorgio has already published 2 monographs. The first is Tutela Urbis, il significato e la concezione della divinità tutelare cittadina nella religione romana. And the other, Tutela Secreta ed Evocatio nel politeismo romano. He wrote many articles and papers in different countries and languages, but I highlight here just the recent, only the recent article entitled The Place-Make Function of Ritual Movements at Rome, from Salience to Our Lady of Mount Carmel in the last issue of the open access journal Mythos. He is currently writing a new monograph entitled Conquista Romana, I cunicoli tra storia, archeologia, mito e religione. Today, Giorgio Ferri will present us a talk on a study case on the relationships of the ritual movement and between ritual movement and Roman sacred landscape, with the case of the ritual running of the Luperci. And I will be very happy to see everybody in other series, other sections of our series. Thank you very much, Giorgio. Thank you all. And it's up to you, Giorgio.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my presentation? Okay. Perfect. Okay. So, as Claudia touched upon already, this seminar is linked to my ongoing project called Ritmo, the placemaking function of ritual movement in Roman religion, which last year received funding from the European Union in form of a Marie Curie individual fellowship. As the title says, its focus is on ritual movement, that is, movement of individuals or groups on more or less fixed routes performed on the occasion of rituals with religious causes or purposes, and on the function it played in creating new religious places in ancient Rome, both culturally, socially, and physically. I have been inspired by two recent works, namely the book edited in 2015 by Ida Östenberg, Simon Malmberg, and Jonas Björneby. I don't know if I pronounced them correctly, and that published by Jacob A. Latham in 2016 called Performance, Memory and Processions in Ancient Rome. I had the chance to work with the latter on the occasion of the opening conference of my project, which I organized and took place in Rome last September. Recently, I also met Ida Östenberg, whose works on processions, first of all, the Triumph, the Roman Triumph, are of utmost importance. My presentation will focus on a very interesting and important case study of ritual movement in Roman religion, the Lupercalia, from the point of view of their placemaking function in Rome's sacred landscape. Let's start with a few methodological remarks on the aforementioned placemaking process. Placemaking means creating a new place from space, first of all, in a cultural perspective. Space is all-encompassing, allows things to be located within it, whereas place is cultural, a basic unit of lived experience and the nexus of human praxis. Continued and intimate interaction with the world makes space acquire cultural meaning, producing a place. As regards the kind of ritual movement I have defined at the beginning, as I said, its continued performance could create one or more religious places, as well as shaping and becoming part of Rome's sacred landscape. This concept was put forward by Hubert Kanzig in the 80s to define the cultural and the physical result of continuous religious activity and performance. That is, all single places where rites were performed, as well as monuments and temples, celebrating and or recalling them. Rome's sacred landscape can thus be considered as a system of connected signs whose knowledge constituted an integral part of the collective memory of the Roman community. The placemaking process works in two different ways. The first takes place during the ritual through the direct experience and the emotion aroused. It is punctual and one time. The second takes place from immediately after the ritual onwards through the narrations, the reports, the memories, through oral accounts, written texts, monuments, etc. Jörg Rupker recently argued that, I quote, large urban societies need practices that craft place by relating people and space, disrupting continuous space, selectively appropriating, and that such services could be provided by religion, end of the quote. Therefore, ritual performance played a decisive role in shaping the urban space as a whole. I quote here an article from Cecil Feldman-Weiss dealing with the Roman Ephesus. Performance should be considered a vital element within the urban built environment and integral to the creation of city as a place, end of the quote. So let's come to the Lupercalia. I had the chance to delve into this topic thanks to the proposal of writing an essay on a book edited by Corinne Bonnet, which is going to be published soon. And I'm currently writing a longer essay to be published next year. That was also the occasion to get in touch and to discuss intensely with Krešimir Vukovic, who I don't know if he's connected, who is at the moment one of the main experts on this topic and who should be now connected on Tower 7, I guess, but I don't think so. His monograph on the Lupercalia is going to be published soon, should be at the end of the year. The Lupercalia were celebrated every year on February 15. They consisted first of a sacrifice, then almost naked young men ran around the Palatine, lashing every person they encountered with a whip made of goat skin. And you can see here a beautiful painting by an Italian painter, Andrea Camassei, at the Museo Nacional del Prado. In the life of Romulus, Plutarch provides a detailed description of the ritual. The Luperci slaughtered goats, and then after 2 youths of noble birth have been brought to them, some of them touched their foreheads with a bloody knife, and others wiped the stain off at once with wool dipped in milk. The youth must laugh after their foreheads are wiped. After this, they cut the goat's skins into strips and run about, with nothing on but a girdle, striking all who meet them with the tongs, and young married women do not try to avoid their blows, fancying that they promote conception and easy childbirth. The main purpose for this ritual was the purification of the city before the new year, formally started on January the 1st already, could gain its plenitude with the solstice of spring. So important was this purificative function that, according to Varro, it gave its name to the month. But I think that it was called February rather from the Dies Februatus purification day, because then the people Februatur is purified. That is, the old Palatine town, girt with flocks of people, is passed around by the naked Luperci. The sacrifice was performed at, and the running of the Luperci started from, the cave called Lupercal. Let us read another passage of Varro. The Lupercalia was so named because Luperci make sacrifice in the Lupercal. When the high priest announces the monthly festivals on the nones of February, he calls the day of the Lupercalia Februatus. for februm is the name which the Sabines give to the purification. And this word is not unknown in our sacrifices. And the Lupercalia was called also Februatio, Festival of Purification, as I have shown in the books of antiquities. This place, the Lupercal, was of central importance for the Roman people, as it was considered to be the nursing place of Romulus and Remus by the she-wolf. Here you can see a nice and recent reconstruction by Andrea Carandini's team, which I don't agree 100%, but it's very nice to give you an image. Now you can see here, of course, the twins, the she-wolf. This should be the shepherd, Faustulus, coming with the porks, and here are Calarentia coming down from the Palatine where there are the huts. So this was Rome before Rome, so to say, and this is where it all happened. Now this man is the personification of Tiberinus, the god, the god of the river. As stated by Dionysius of Halicarnassus, there was a bronze statue of a she-wolf offering her breasts to two children. In his time, in his day. This was now starting for sure from the 3rd century BCE, was a very common and widespread image in Rome. This image has become so famous that in a controversial book about Remus, Timothy Wiseman wrote, with the possible exception of the Trojan horse, there is no scene in the whole iconography of classical myth more recognizable than that of the she-wolf and the twins. And though few people today would be able to name even one of the Greek warriors hidden in the horse, the she-wolf scene can still be relied on to evoke the formula Romulus and Remus. The words Lupercal, Lupercalia, and Luperci derive from lupus, wolf. Here is a quote from Ovid. The she-wolf Lupa gave her name to the place, and the place gave their name to the Luperci. Great is the reward the nurse has got for the milk she gave. This is also the opinion of other sources, such as Plutarch and Varro. The Luperca was an extraordinary trademark of Rome's sacred landscape and remained for centuries the only sacred cave at Rome. So the other caves, such as the caves of the Mithraean cult, came much later. But there was but where was it, or better, where should it be, or should have been, as its exact location is still unknown? First of all, it was at the southwestern slope of the Palatine, called Germalus here. Now this is the city, the ancient city with the well-known hills, more than 7 hills, of course, the Aventinus outside the Pomerium. This is the Palatine, and the slope facing, as you can see, the valley that will host the Circus Maximus, and the river is called Germalus. That slope of the hill faced the Tiber, and it was often reached by its waters on the occasion of floods. This was very common. All this reconstruction come from recent works of Carandini, which are debated, but can give you a good image to make an idea of the place at that time. So you see the Vallis Murcia that will host the Circus Maximus, and here the Tiber with flood reaching the point more or less of where the twins sank, and of the Luperca. This is also where the main access to the hill was located, a staircase called Scala Ikaci, the stairway of Cacus. You can see here, no? So imagine this was the on this side there was the ancient harbor of Rome, no? Because it was very close to the river. Zona Acquedrinosa, the swamp, no? So this was very common to be flooded by the waters of the Tiber. Here, the supposed location of the Luperca by Carandini, and here the stairway, the staircase going up to the hill. This is the Palatine already. The appearance of the Lupercal conveyed an impression of wilderness until the restoration under Augustus, who built his mansion just above the Lupercal. The Holy Cave is described by Dionysius of Halicarnassus as he saw it and as it should have been in its recent past. Now it is true, since the district above the sacred precinct has been united with the city, it has become difficult to make out by conjecture the ancient nature of the place. Nevertheless, at first, we are told there was a large cave under the hill, overarched by a dense wood. Deep spring issued from beneath the rocks, and the glen adjoining the cliffs was shaded by thick and lofty trees. In this place, they raised an altar to the god Pan. This was the slope of the hill more connected to Romulian memories, to the memories of Romulus. So, the Lupercal, at least the supposed location of the Lupercal, as a matter of fact, the Casa Romuli, so the hut of Romulus, the Ficus Ruminalis here, a fig tree, that was very important because it was considered another place where the twins were nurtured by the she-wolf. As I said, the Scala Ikaci here, the staircase going up to the Palatine. The Murus Romuli here. So the first city was built by the founder, supposedly built by the founder. And the Pomerium here, Rome's first border. This is all very conjectural, I must say. So don't take everything for granted. The slope itself bore a reference to the twins, so it was very much connected, at least by antiquarians, to the twins, as Varro explains. Germanus, they say, is from the Germani brothers, Romulus and Remus, because it is beside the fig tree of the suckling, Ficus ruminalis, and they were found there where the Tiber's winter flood had brought them when they had been put out in a basket. This place was very much present to the memory and to the experience of the Romans. That became particularly true on the occasion of the Lupercalia. This is a first important consequence of the continued performance of such an important ritual, by linking itself to the lieu de mémoire, to use a Pierre Nora expression, of Rome's origins. It recalled, reenacted, and made those origins alive and present every year. The sacred cave, the sacred fig, the statue of the she-wolf and the twins constituted a complex of both material and immaterial mnemotopoi, inextricably linked to the beginning of the Roman cosmos, that is, the city itself. The miraculous saving of the twins was to be considered the actual birth of Rome. Both the material relics and the immaterial ritual kept such memory alive and contributed to the successive renovations and rebuildings of the place, such as that of Augustus. Thus, the complex around the Lupercal was at the same time a mythical place where it was possible to imagine the events of Rome's origins, and a real place which could be seen and visited. Unfortunately, through the centuries, because of the oblivion, the devastation, and the changes, often drastic, suffered by Rome, the first meaning is now certainly prevailing. In fact, the holy cave has become for us a mythical place, only because we ignore its exact position, in spite of more or less plausible conjectures, ancient and modern modification, and often harsh debates. Here are the hypotheses given by scholars. I put them on a modern map of Rome. No? So here you can more or less imagine the Circus Maximus, but I will show you another image. This is the Palatine. And so these are the hypotheses given by Quarelli here, harshly against Carandini, which imagines the Lupercal just below the house of Augustus. And this is another 19th century conjecture by Fabio Gori and John Henry Parker, which of course cannot be really further research because it is just below the Via dei Cerchi, which now is a very busy road of Rome. If it is difficult to imagine the ancient places today with modern buildings, so we will be now. I will show you an image from Google Street View. So imagine that we are here, where you see P, Circo Massimo Parcheggio. So, as I said, if it's difficult to imagine the ancient places today with modern buildings, Via dei Cerchi, such as the Church of Santa Anastasia here, the Palatine is on the left, the traffic on Via dei Cerchi, of course, the road between the Circus Maximus here, which is now, so to say, a public park, and the Palatine, as I said, with the enclosures, the walls, the trees, and the untamed grass, already in Augustus' day, so in Dionysius of Halicarnassus' day, it must have been for sure very hard to get an idea of the Rome of the Twins, of course. Going back to Dionysius' description, the rebuilding by means of Augustus, he says, Lupercal feci, so I did, not I restored. The Luperca, still likely open to the outside, was monumentalized, thus losing any residual feature of its original aspect. The cave and the spring were still there, but the wood disappeared. I borrow now some striking images from a very recent book by Andrea Carandini and Paolo Carafa, Dal Mostro al Principe, to show you how Augustus changed that crucial part of Rome's sacred landscape. So there are three different phases. This is the slope of the Germanus, the slope of the Palatine. You can see here the first version, so to say, of Augustus' mansion. Just below Augustus' mansion, there was the cave. Here, the cave of the Lupercal. This is the Nymphaeum Carandini found in again, because it was found already in the 16th century, which he believed it was an Nymphaeum, no? It's the spring just beside the Lupercal. And here you can see the general image. No? So the first version of Augustus' mansion and the Lupercal just below. The second phase, between 36 BCE and 3 CE, so the construction of the temple of Apollo, and again here the Nymphaeum of the Lupercal, and after that even more complex. No, you can see here the subtraction, which gained even more space from the slopes of the hill. No, so remember, the slopes here were visible, more or less, and here they were very close, but here they are very far away, so to say. They are completely covered by this very big and impressive construction. And this is a 3D reconstruction of the final aspect of the monumental complex based on the most recent excavation of that slope of the Palatine. The Paolo Carafa's team is excavating currently on this side here and along the Vicus Tuscus, so the northwestern part of the Palatine. As you can see, this is the Temple of Apollo, where Augustus brought the Libri Sibillini. So this becomes really a very important symbolical and religious place of Rome. And the Lupercal is covered, cannot be seen anymore from outside, and it should be here, just below the square. And here you can see the Circus Maximus. The photo of Google Earth was taken more or less from here. So just to give you an image of a 3D image in your mind of the place. But let's try to go back in time. So again, the image I've shown you before. If we try to figure out the slope of the hill with the cave visible from outside, with the spring and with the wood still there, it is not that difficult to recover the liminal and wild significance of that particular place. As regards the first aspect, the liminal one, the Lupercal on the margin of the built-up area, on the border between the Oppidum Palatinum, the city founded by the first king up on the hill, and the outside along the Pomerium, sacred border of the city at the foot of the hill run by the Luperci. So the Luperca was in this liminal position. As regards the second meaning, the wild one, just outside there was a wood, as I said. This is also, as we have seen, the place reached by the waters of the Tiber during floods. Thus, the Lupercal was at the same time an important place of Rome, but it was at the same time not completely and properly inside it. On the foot of the built-up hill and near its access, Scala Caci, looked, so to say, to the outside, to the savage, to the not built up, to the chaotic, to the nature. This is exactly the realm of Pan, mentioned by Dionysius, under whose guise it won't be difficult to recognize Faunus. Moreover, by running around the Palatine every year, the Luperci enacted a lustratio around the hill. So you can see here, A is the Lupercal, Palatium is of course the Palatine hill, and so they run around the hill. We will say more about their route. I will leave aside the debate about the actual or original meaning of the word and of the right lustratio, as it would be possible to ever find one. The subject has been very much debated, and until very recently, what it appears to be certain from our sources is that such a ritual performance always entailed a circumambulatio, that is, a circular movement around what had to be lustrated. The reference to such a kind of circular movement is constant in our sources. So you can see the words used by different authors to describe this movement. No? So periethein, to go round by Dionysius, peridrome, lap, turn, circular route, and cinctum and circle by Varro. And let's go back again to Varro. Again, this passage, I have added lustratur at the end, and highlighted how in his day the act of purifying februare was somehow equated to the act of lustrare and vice versa. So that is, no, is purified, that is the old Palatine is passed around lustratum. So id est, he says. So it is equated, at least in his times, in his day. Okay, let's follow now the run of the Luperci. So let's go back to the map. After the sacrifice at the Lupercal, so A on our map, they started encircling the Palatine here, counterclockwise, that is in the direction of the other lustrationes we know from sources, moving southeastwards between the slopes of the Palatine and Circus Maximus, nowadays via the Cerchi, the road which I showed you a few slides before. Then they turned left. They turned left here, going along the slope facing the Cilian Hill. The Cilian Hill you can see on the right side here, present via di San Gregorio. So this is the valley of the Colosseum, more or less, but of course it was not there at the beginning. Then they turn left again, taking the Sacra Via here, between the Palatine and the Bellian Hill, the small hill here which doesn't exist almost anymore. Coming to the Forum, so the Valley of the Forum, where the Luperci apparently stopped, probably by the Comitium, at the time of the sources we have. Nevertheless, it is likely that the circle was to be closed below the last slope, here Velabrum, you see, along the Vicus Tuscus and the Velabrum, to turn one last time and stop at the Holy Cave, concluding the Lustratio, so this circle around the Palatine. But the slopes of the Palatine, Rome's first core, were also its first border. And this is exactly where the Luperci ran along. Now, the boundaries of Rome's first core were those supposedly traced by Romulus Plough. This furrow, called the Sulcus Primigenius, was in its turn inextricably connected to the first Pomerium, Rome's sacred border. Again, through their ritual movement, the Luperci remembered every year Rome's origins and the deeds of her founder and first king, as well as keeping memory of her first borders. In this regard, it is likely that the recurring ritual movement of the Luperci could have helped and fostered somehow the erudite reconstruction of Rome's Pomerium by Claudius, Emperor Claudius, who highlighted it with stones cippi, thus creating a new material, lieu de mémoire. Tacitus records this deed in the Annals, citing the corners fixed by the emperor. So the Ara Maxima below on the left, at the Forum Boarium, the altar of Consus in the Circus Maximus below on the right, the Curiae Veteres on top on the right, and the shrine of the Lares on top on the left. This is a reconstruction by Giuseppe Lugli, a bit dated from the 40s, but still very useful to get an idea. As a matter of fact, Tacitus ends this passage of the Annals stating that, I quote, "The limits, as now determined by Claudius, are both easily identified and recorded in public documents." That is, this mythical immaterial place becomes a new, an erudite reconstruction, but an actual material place. If the route was more or less fixed and pre-established, nevertheless, the Luperci enjoyed some freedom in their ritual movement, as they were free to discurrere, that is, to run around, to run here and there. In musical terms, we could consider this ritual movement as a theme with variations, but without improvisations. Why that? This discurrere was needed to lash as many people as possible. In fact, the hill was cinctum, girt and circled, as we have seen in Barro, by people waiting to hopefully receive a heat by the whips made of goat skin. And you see here a very beautiful lastra campana, which shows is the only image left showing the Luperci completely naked, and it's at the Museo Nazionale Romano of Palazzo Massimo in Rome. The sound of the lashing was so deeply associated with the ritual to bestow on the Luperci the only other name that we know associated with them, as stated by Festus. Creppi, that is to say Luperci, were so called from the clatter of the goat skins produced while lashing. In fact, at the Lupercalia, it was customary among the Romans to run around naked and strike with skins every woman they encountered. In fact, even though the whole Roman people was involved, without distinction of gender or age, as in Varro's passage, remember, flocks of people, greges humani, the lashing was especially craved by women because it was believed that it would foster conception and pregnancy. The few iconographic sources preserved of the Lupercalia always refer to the ritual fustigatio, flogging. So here a mosaic from Tunisia and a part of a sarcophagus later the century CE, reused for the tomb of a Christian woman a century later. So this is also very striking to use such a scene for a Christian woman. Finally, so important was the placemaking function of the Lupercalia that this ritual movement was, sorry for the pun, moved to Constantinople, most likely since its foundation by Emperor Constantine. In order to be an altera Roma, another Rome, the new capital with both pagan and Christian features had to be the stage of other Lupercalia that were to be celebrated at least until the 10th century CE, as we read in the Book of Ceremonies, a work compiled and edited by the Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogennetos. In conclusion, the Lupercalia can be considered as a very good example of how repeated ritual performance can shape the perception, the experience, the memory of the place, as well as the place itself. Human actions and engagements make place. At the same time, place shapes human identity. Moreover, I cite Cecil Feldman Weiss one last time, I quote, "Through physical engagement with place, new meanings and memories are created, while previously held associations are maintained through sustained interaction." End of the quote. The setting of the performance, in our case, Rome's sacred landscape, provides the context within which the ritual becomes meaningful and where a new religious place can be created. Thank you for the attention. Okay.
Thank you very much, Giorgio. And we will start the Q&A session. But first, I would like to thank you for this brilliant and very instructive talk. And I think there is no questions in this minute, I suppose. So I would like to start, if I may. Giorgio, this decisive role of ritual movement to create religious space, it's fantastic in your play, but I would like to ask you to speak a little more about the annually renewed visibility of and soundness of the Luperci themselves. For example, their nakedness, their instruments, movement, creating long-lasting memories, but also beliefs and knowledge, if you please.
Okay, I didn't catch 100%, but it's about mostly about the visibility during the ritual. Yes, and so we should imagine more or less this is easier for people living in Catholic countries, like more or less like a modern procession, no, with people waiting at the borders of the streets for this procession to pass by. But this procession was a bit crazier than the usual Catholic procession we are used to see and to remember, no? But the principle is the same, the structure. So as Varro says, we cannot doubt that he saw at least once, but I guess many times the rite with his own eyes. Is he says that the Palatine is geared, is encircled with people. So just imagine, try to imagine the hill encircled with people. So many people waiting for the Luperci to pass by, and we could imagine also people. I guess maybe I see Kreshimir that he's connected. Maybe he can say something more how he has imagined the scene. But people are also on the other side of the route of the Luperci. So they were very visible and so visible that they to large people they had to come very close. So you could actually see them very well. And this was a very important rite for Rome and really a moment of suspension of the order. So just like for the Salians, it was very strange, no? So to see young Romans dancing and singing, you know, it was also, I guess, very, very not strange, but once in a while experience to see young, almost naked Romans running around, lashing people. Maybe not as strange as it would be for us, no, because it was performed every year, but it was I think it was so to say also a religious rite, but also a show in a very good meaning. So I guess that many Romans were there to see. So, and they were very visible because they were the only priests, the only sodalitas that performed their rites naked or almost naked. This is not certain in our sources. Sometimes they have a belt, sometimes they are completely naked, sometimes some others imagine them with a shirt made of goat skin, but of course they didn't really give a grave, a solemn image. This is for sure.
Thank you, George. I will stop recording for everybody to feel free to ask questions, okay?